I think, I think I had a baby once. I can't believe I am regaining my memory. What if I was married to a serial killer, a thief, or an abusive husband and I ran away? What if I have a 3-year-old baby somewhere and a stranger is looking after my baby? Adilah said anxiously, her voice trembling as she shared her thoughts with Mr. Cooper later that night. His eyes softened with understanding. It's not possible, he said gently. Mr. Cooper smiled, though a flicker of sadness crossed his face. I'm glad you're starting to remember things. One day you'll piece it all together, and when you do, I'll be here to help you find your family. Adilah hesitated, feeling a strange heaviness in her chest. His words brought a pang of sadness to Adilah's heart. Mr. Cooper was a kind man who had shown her so much love and care, despite knowing that she was a homeless beggar. The idea of leaving him and Natalie felt unbearable. She was starting to build a life with them, and even though it wasn't real, it felt so real. On the other hand, Mr. Cooper's biggest fear was that maybe Adilah was a married woman with a child, and her family could have been looking for her all this time. Just thinking about this possibility made him go crazy. Even though he was happy that Adilah could finally remember details of who she was, deep inside he did not want to know the truth. Mr. Cooper prioritized family and made sure every weekend he spent time with Adilah and his daughter Natalie. Their relationship was still platonic but very caring. Mr. Cooper had cried on Adilah's shoulder more times than he could count, and she had done the same. He felt so comfortable around her and could be himself with her. She seemed to understand him whenever he was hurt, upset, or angry. The problem was, Mr. Cooper was falling in love with Adilah. He had been noticing little things, like her scent, her smile, her laugh, and the way she smiles with her eyes when she sees him. He was noticing how much his daughter loves her, not to mention that she was gorgeous, intelligent, and hardworking. She was one of the strongest people he ever encountered. A few nights ago, Mr. Cooper almost kissed Adilah after putting Natalie to bed. The chemistry was there, but they both were suppressing how they felt. Their goodnight hugs were taking a little longer than normal. It's been 3 years since Mr. Cooper felt romantic feelings for a woman. That one-night stand from 3 years ago had such a deep impact on him. He has been looking for the biological mother of his child to date. Mr. Cooper had never expected to fall in love with Adilah. Now he was falling in love with his fake wife, Adilah, and didn't know what to do. The truth is, Adilah and Mr. Cooper were both scared of finding out the truth about Adilah's family due to the strong bond that they had created. Mr. Cooper's parents had noticed their growing closeness, and they weren't subtle about their desires. "Why don't you two make it official?" his mother had asked one evening over dinner, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "You're practically a family already, not to mention that Natalie loves you so much, and wait a minute, Natalie looks so much like you." Mr. Cooper looked at the two in shock, his heart beating fast. What if Adilah was the girl from the one-night stand he had been looking for? Adilah had laughed nervously, glancing at Mr. Cooper, who quickly changed the subject. But all of that changed the day Adilah stepped into the boardroom for a meeting with potential business partners. Adilah had been tasked with presenting a service offering to a major corporation, and as she walked in, ready to impress, her eyes fell on a man standing at the far end of the room. Steve, her ex-husband. He nearly stumbled in shock, his eyes wide as he took in the sight of her. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. Steve's mind raced as he struggled to process what he was seeing. Steve thought Adilah was dead. Adilah, his ex-wife, the woman he had framed and destroyed, was standing in front of him, calm, poised, and clearly successful. But Adilah didn't recognize him. She met his gaze with a polite smile, her mind not registering the familiarity of his face. She thought he looked vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place him. And honestly, she didn't care to. Men like him, with their expensive suits and smug expressions, annoyed her. "Let's get started," she said confidently, launching into her presentation as if nothing was out of the ordinary. Steve couldn't tear his eyes away from her. After the meeting, he approached Mr. Burns, the finance director, and asked, Who, who is she? Mr. Burns smiled proudly. That's Mrs. Cooper. The CEO's wife. Steve froze. Steve's face paled. Mrs. Cooper? His mind reeled. This couldn't be happening. Look out for part 7 for more twists and turns. Follow, like, and share, for I am posting exciting stories like these every day.